Devaya. Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, text 26. Yato yato nischalati manaschanchalamassthiram tatastato niyamyaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. It's a very important shloka to understand the intricacies of mind. So Krishna says, Yato yato nischalati manaha. Chalati means flickering, wavering, moving. So mind is yato yato nischalati. Whatever and wherever the mind has the habit of going, because it is chanchalam, very unsteady, asthiram. Chanchalam means always moving about, flickering. Asthiram means unsteady. So wherever the mind goes, tatastataha niyamya. From there, one has to bring back the mind. And atmani eva vasham nayet. You bring back, and if you don't give engagement to the mind, what it will do again, it will go. So you have to give the engagement. Atmani, what is that engagement? Atmani eva vasham nayet. One has to bring the mind to the control of oneself, to give a higher taste. Otherwise, the mind will depart to wherever and whatever and wherever. So, this is yet another verse talking about the importance of controlling one's mind. This is one of the important yogic principle. Anybody who practices Ashtanga-yoga, for that matter, any spiritual path, controlling our mind is a very important principle. Yato yato nischalati. The mind keeps going. This is the nature of the mind. Prabhupada writes, a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. And one who can control the mind and thereby the senses is called a goswami or swami. And one who is controlled by the mind is called godasa or servant of the senses. So if somebody is called a goswami, we have several goswamis in our sampradaya. In fact, all the acharyas are goswamis. Not just a title, the meaning is that that person has conquered the mind and the senses. Go means senses. Swami means master. If one is controlled by the mind, he is called Go Dasa, not Swami. Why he controls the mind? Prabhupada gives this powerful formula, one line formula. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. If you know the standard of sense happiness, say for example, if a movie is released and the review has come out, it's so bad, will you ever go for it? Nobody goes for it. Because you know the standard of the entertainment the movie provides. But if there is a super hit movie, then naturally everybody wants to go. Because you know the standard of happiness or the entertainment. So here it says, a Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. Sense happiness is a flop movie. Of course, some movies, we don't know how it becomes a super hit because there are a section of people who like it, whether it's violence or whatever it is, some elements. So, sense happiness is liked by those who are in the material world or who are conditioned for sensual happiness. But a Goswami knows what is that standard. Yan maithunadhi gruhamedi sukham hi tucham. It is based on maithuna. Mithuna means mixing of male and female that produces some itching sensation. Kanduyanena karayor iva. Kanduyanena karayor means when you rub both hands. Karayoho. It brings an itching sensation. Or when you have an itch, you rub, and that seems to resolve that itch or seems to produce some kind of a gratification. But we don't know that it will cause misery, dukkha dukkham. Eventually, that scratch will become bigger and causes blood and suffering. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. The happiness produced from samsparsha, sense perception, sensual happiness, the same happiness will bring dukkha. The happiness today that comes to you in the form of sense gratification, the same happiness will produce your dukkha tomorrow. Because you are addicted to that kind of happiness. And when there is no such happiness, or when that happiness ends, you feel dukkha. Or you keep hankering for that happiness and you commit so many sinful activities to get similar happiness. Prabhupada gives a very simple example to understand. Like you like eating. Just because you like eating, you overeat and abuse your senses. There is dukkha in terms of disease, isn't it? Simple way to understand. So a Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness, and he also knows the standard of transcendental sense happiness, which is in transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha, or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. Because the Goswami is fully aware of that standard and he finds that higher happiness, he can easily control the senses. But a yogi or even a Krishna conscious devotee has to understand that the mind is always flickering. Just like I gave this example. This child keeps going hither and thither. Very naughty child. Takes a lot of time to control the child. Only when you have completely controlled the child, or when the child is always under your control, is not naughty, is engaged properly with meaningful things, and not disturbed and not disturbing you anymore, that means you have truly controlled your child. So just like that, is your mind always, or whenever the mind, is it instantly hearing you, or you are having to struggle? Sometimes we don't even understand whatever the mind is asking, we are doing. There is no struggle because you are just giving into the mind's dictations. We are sleeping basically. The mind is taking us wherever the mind wants. There is no struggle, you are just going along with the mind. And as a result, what will happen? We'll go and fall into the ditch in great danger. So Krishna here is saying the ideal stage where Atmani eva vasham nayet. It becomes completely under the control of the self. Otherwise, it is nischalati. That is the nature of the mind, always flickering and roaming. Still remember, recently I had an important meeting and I have to go at that time, and I started exactly on time. So I have to drive properly to reach my office. But I was coming off from another meeting not related to office, and my mind was occupied with that, and I was always thinking about that, and I missed the exit. I was conscious. I was trying to say, oh no, I should drive properly so I can reach the office on time. But every day I would take the same exit. But because I was so preoccupied because of the previous meeting, previous activity, that even without my knowledge, the mind, I was thinking about that and I missed the exit and I got delayed by 5 minutes. So there was this kingdom where the king had to send an important message to his ally about an attack that is going to happen on their kingdom. So he wanted to send, he told his minister, you please send, your reliable person. It has to reach, the message has to reach on time. And then he picked out the important man and, you know, you go and give this message on the cloth, they give that thing, fold it and give. And then he said, while you're going, be focused, watch out for Nari, because the kingdom is vast. And he said, when the moment he said, watch out for Nari, and then he was thinking, oh my God, I should be very careful. I'm a young man and anybody can come and disturb me. And I should be very focused. And he was thinking like that. You should watch out for Nari. And then he missed the path. He went somewhere else, and the king did not get any acknowledgement in time. And fortunately, they realized that, and soon they sent somebody else. And they reached on time, and somehow the danger was averted. And then this man came back after a long time, and his head little tilted. And the minister was chastising him. I told you what you did. And then he said, I was so engrossed in my own mind not to see women or careful about women, but I forgot that when you said Nari, you're referring to the name of the horse. Watch out for the horse. The name of the horse is Nari. And because this horse was not very well trained, it was fast, but it is not well trained. It just took me away to some other place. And because I was so engrossed in my own thought, I just went along with that and deviated me from the path. So this is how the mind is. The mind is so powerful, so forceful that if we don't understand the instruction of Krishna properly or the spiritual master properly, the mind can take us away. Even if we understand, if we are not strong, the mind can take away from our destination or from where we want to go. The other example that we can understand is the mind is like a monkey. The monkey is like always trying to, do things not very steady. It takes something from somebody, but it throws away and goes to attack somebody else. Not very steady in what it wants to achieve. Always thinking, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Jumping from one thing to the other, one thing to the other. So if the mind is like the monkey, how can there be steadiness and peace? So one has to be There are a couple of methods that the Shastra suggests to tame the mind. One is how they tame these wild animals. The wild animal is, put into this cage when it is caught. The tiger, for example, or the lion. The lion is not given food for several days. And the lion is very weak and hungry and waiting when the food will come. And suddenly the the circus master or whoever is supposed to control this lion, he comes with a stick in his hand, and the lion is thinking he'll give me food, and then he starts to beat this lion like anything. On one hand, the lion is very weak, and then this guy is beating him like anything, and the lion becomes even more exasperated. And then the next time, after a couple of days, he comes again, and this time the lion is terrified. Oh my God, I'm going to die today. He's going to beat me. And then he gives some food, and then the lion immediately takes it. But he's very scared of this guy. And so the lion then fixes in his mind that this man can save my life or he can kill me. So he comes under the control of this man. Whatever he says, he will obey. That's how they tame these wild animals. Or as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says, how to tame your mind by beating it, just like this person who bet these animals. After getting up from your sleep, you take your shoes and beat your mind 100 times. Because the mind is like a monkey jumping around. No, you are like a wild animal going around. No, you beat it and bring it under your control. No, you have to meditate, you have to chant. This is your task, first task. All the other things that you planned for the day can come later. And while going to bed, he says, you take a broomstick and beat your mind 100 times. Then you can control your mind. Otherwise, it is very difficult. So there was this, we know the Bharat Maharaj, who became a deer, and eventually in the next life he became Jada Bharat. And he was asked to carry the palanquin of this king. The Jada Bharata was acting like dumb and deaf, but very stout in his build of his body. So they brought him because one person was missing to carry the palanquin of the king. They said, hey, Jada Bharat, please come and carry the king's palanquin. And so he was carrying, and he was jumping around to escape these ants. And there was a lot of chastisement from the king. And finally the king said, he got down and he started to chastise like anything. And Jada Bharat finally spoke in response to the king, and he spoke spiritual words that shook the king. Who is this person who is speaking such words of enlightenment? He's not an ordinary person. He's disguised as an ordinary person. And then the king surrenders to Jadabharat, accepts him as his spiritual master. And Jadabharat instructs him beautiful instructions. So this happens in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 11th chapter. And in the 8th verse, he says something very powerful. So Jadabharat says, when the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. See, our suffering in this material world is because the mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world. And then he says, however, when the mind becomes unattached to material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. And then he gives this beautiful example. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. You know, you see the wicks, the ghee wick, when there is wind and the flame is burning here and there, and suddenly it goes out and it blackens the whole wick. But when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. When it is going here and there, it burns the lamp, the black thing, that's considered like suffering. But when it is not going there and here, when it is detached from material sense gratification, burning brightly on the strength of the ghee, on the strength of that Krishna consciousness, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. So he says, O king, please try to conquer this mind. He gives this formula. The formula is, he says, O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the formula. Conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And do this with great care. So Prabhupada, in writing about this, he says, yes, this is the weapon to control the mind, to conquer the mind by service. And there is another easy weapon, he says, to conquer the mind, which is neglect. He says it is neglect. The mind is always telling us to do this or that. Therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's orders. So, we also have to become strong in saying no. So, sometimes we are so soft that we want to please everybody. Whatever comes to us, oh, we say yes, yes. Oh, if I say no, they'll feel bad. My image will be hampered. So I should say yes. I should please them. So as a result, my priority is neglected. My peace is neglected. My goals are neglected. Whatever my superior has given me, that is neglected. So we should become strong in saying no sometimes. So that quality will help in disobeying the mind's orders. So Prabhupada says, therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's orders. We should understand what is this mind's order, or this is important for me. Is this generated in the mind for my sense gratification, or is it helpful for my goal, for my service, for whatever I set to achieve today? So we should become expert in disobeying those mind's orders. Gradually, the mind should be trained to obey the orders of the soul. It's not that one should obey the orders of the mind. So this is the two weapons that the scriptures talk about: the weapon of service and the weapon of neglect. One time, Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, when I chant, the mind is going so many places, so I'm finding difficulty to chant. And then Prabhupada said, what is the question of mind? Just have to chant and hear the name. Where is the question of mind? That means he's indicating chanting is very simple. Don't make it complicated by thinking. Mind, the only thing mind does is thinking. Thoughts. So many thoughts are generated. It is said 60,000 thoughts are generated every day. They have done this exercise, statistics. So if we entertain thinking during japa, then the mind plays a very important, big role in taking us away. But if we just focus on one simple thing, chant, produce the sound, and hear, then the mind cannot go away. You make it simple. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.